Pop-Up and Standout, New Concepts in Bold Marketing. Meant to be a really outcome-oriented panel here. Got an amazing collection of, restaurateurs, recipe creators, restaurant PR folks. You basically tried to gather people doing anything and everything interesting in the world of food and restaurants to share some of their own knowledge, experience, expertise, frustrations with you, with the hope that through a little bit of knowledge transfer, we can all come away with a better sense of how to react to the current pandemic. So just in the order that I see them on my screen, we've got Tara and Celene Carrara of Bungkus Bagus. We got Jill Sandin of JS2PR, Marlee Blodgett of Morra Pizza, and Valerie Libutti of VeganTravelEats. So my thought is, let's start this off by just sort of talking about what each of you was doing kind of in the wild world pre-pandemic, if we can remember those hazy days, and then what's sort of changed, how you've adapted in this kind of new normal. So Tara and Celene, why don't you start us off with a little bit of your own backstory?
Cool. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be on the panel. So yeah, pre-COVID was a completely different picture. I was living in New York City. Celene was here in LA. I was planning on moving in May, and then fiance and I got stuck here, when everything went down. And I had been working as a makeup artist. Celene is a doula, so we were doing things not in the food world at all. But just being home together, I think, started to get our sister creativity going. And the thing that kind of prompted us to start this business was that we found fresh banana leaves at Vita Market in LA. And that was something that we had never been able to find before.
After
just sort
decades of looking.
Yeah, after looking for years, it was just, I think we were looking for toilet paper, or our mom on a hunt for toilet paper.
It's part of that craziness.
Yeah, and found the banana leaves. And my fiance Justin had always said, you guys should do your Balinese food for someone other than friends and family. We found leaves. We started, thinking about branding, and then it sort of snowballed from there in an unexpected way. So here we are now, having done 5 pop-ups with great success. So.
And I can attest, having tried it a couple times, it's delicious. So thank you for that. And I like the transition from doula to making food just means you have very able hands, I suppose.
We're very much craftspeople, so it fits.
Jill, how about yourself? Tell us about pre-COVID and post-COVID life.
Well, pre-COVID, I was doing PR for all of our clients, and post-COVID, I'm still doing PR for all of our clients, although doing it in the beauty of my back bedroom, and certainly not going out as much. And of course, the challenges of doing PR in a pre-COVID world are pretty overwhelming. The great news is, if we want a happy story here on some level, is a news story right now. We are really in the news cycle, not just the trend cycle. This is not obviously a feel-good story at the moment. So there are a lot of opportunities to really talk about what our clients are going through, and obviously it's a great deal. And we feel as if we're brand ambassadors for our clients, and it's our job to help them through this time. And it's been so difficult, but the partnerships have gotten a lot stronger with the clients who've been able to stick with us.
Thank you. And Marlee, how about Morra? What's the story
Hi,
there?
so if you haven't tried Morra, we have mobile pizza ovens. So that was primarily our business prior to March, was largely events and catering, and the catering portion of that outside of the pop-ups was more of the bread and butter for us. The catering industry, as you might imagine, came to a complete halt rather quickly. So we had, events and weddings booked through the end of the year that were calling us and either canceling or putting a hold on things and pushing forward to 2021. So very quickly, like almost overnight, out of a decision to save some food, we started making pizza kits. We had a bunch of dough prepared, and we said, people might want the opportunity to make pizza at home. The grocery stores are selling out of everything. And that kind of snowballed into producing frozen pizza, which we are now doing 6 days a week and delivering all over Los Angeles. We're looking to do nationwide shipping very soon here. So we feel like we just discovered another arm of our operation that we thought we might get to in time. We just are doing things kind of backwards or just not the normal approach. So here we are. And though it's been a tough year, we see lots of opportunity on the horizon, which is exciting. So we're excited to talk more about it.
Yeah, and backwards might be the new forward.
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't matter how you get there, right?
Yes, we're all going somewhere, that's for sure. Valerie, how about yourself? Vegan Travel Eats.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, before the pandemic, honestly, my business hasn't changed all that much because I've, worked from home for a few years and, just developed recipes for my own website and for brands. So, more and more people are cooking at home and have been for months. So if anything, it's almost like helped my business, and more brands, want to be promoting their products. Obviously, around the time when everything really hit the fan, product ingredients were really hard to find, and the grocery stores were pretty much empty, the shelves. So there was definitely a point of time, probably like a month or two, where I put recipe development on hold, and so I couldn't find ingredients either. So I'm like, is anyone else going to find ingredients? But now it's pretty much back to normal and really busy.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point that you kind of hinted at, that it's obviously it's a sort of tragic time, but at the same time there are silver linings to be found, and I think the hope is that we can kind of suss out some of those so that people in the audience can learn from that. In that vein, Tara and Celene, beyond finding the proverbial banana leaf in the Vallarta, what were the steps that it took to basically launching a new restaurant a new food concept, getting the word out, finding interested, hungry people? How did you kind of go from like the eureka moment to actually making it happen?
There was a bit of cosmic timing involved. I was actually doing postpartum meal preparation for 2 chefs here in LA, and we were talking behind the scenes about making Indonesian food, and I thought maybe these chefs will like test it for me and we can see if we're really up to par. So it was really helpful to have like a professional opinion on the food, and then once we perfected the Bungkus and all the items that go inside, it was just a matter of developing the concept on Instagram and then getting the word out there. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we have connections to the food scene, so that seemed to everything kind of blossomed. Yeah, definitely. One of our biggest sort of breaks was that we have a good friend, Wilder Shaw, who wrote about us for LA Taco? LA Taco, yeah. For LA Taco. And that brought in like 1,000 followers within like a few days. So for us, it was definitely the case of like who you know and who is on your team and like who will root for you, because our first pop-up was mostly family and friends. Like it was just like a huge network of people who were excited about us being together again and excited about us making the food. And so from really leaning into our support system helped us then get to their friends and then their friends and their friends, try to just reach strangers right away. It was really like leaning on our system we already have, which was good. Yeah. It worked. Yeah, it worked. So.
Yeah. And I think, just having tried it again, not to make it about me, but just, to give some advice that's not just, know people. Yeah. I mean, the food's also, it's delicious. It's like super flavorful, punchy. And I think it also helps that it's pretty, visually evocative. It looks great when you share a photo of it, and you guys run a great Instagram feed, I think, thanks to that. Marlee, similarly, what was it like transitioning from being more of a catering business where you might be, sort of doing fewer but larger orders to trying to do more sell in just, a couple pieces to a million people?
Well, on the back end, I mean, everything completely shifted. So we went from being more of an experiential operation. Our website was very simple. I built it at some point in time with the help of a graphic designer, a couple of hours. And really it was just leading you to either our Instagram or a catering form where you could say, hey, we're having a wedding and we're interested in this and that. So we basically went from being experiential to a digital e-commerce platform overnight. So, I mean, so many curveballs and so many new things to learn, but in the same regard, it's been really interesting to explore a different area of the market. I mean, we're still creating the same product, which is interesting. It's just delivering it in an entirely different capacity, which I think can be applied to so many businesses, food or otherwise. And at the end of the day, you know, we still very much so identify with the hospitality industry as a whole. So it's really about figuring out how we best prepare our product and then deliver it to our consumer. You know, it's the second piece of the operation. So before it was pulling up the oven on site, and now it's, you know, digital marketing and e-commerce and figuring out how we, you know, branch off into new markets and neighborhoods and eventually states.
Yeah, big opportunity. Jill, you have, you know, all sorts of clients, all sorts of price points, different cuisines, styles. You know, similarly, what have you seen? You know, how have your restaurateurs shifted their focus? And also, you know, has anyone, you know, new come up with a totally new idea, new kitchen, new concept that's sort of, you know, capitalized on?
Yeah, well, we've launched 3 restaurants during the pandemic very successfully. So restaurants are opening. Listen, in this moment in time, it's so essential for people to know who they are, who their customer is, and not try to be all things to all people. If you're going to go into a restaurant, you want to have a perfect experience. That experience really has to get you up and out of the house. And that's a big order right now. So the things that are really translating with customers are really creative ways to get to-go food. That's, you know, to your point, is experiential, because it's, you know, people want to have a wonderful, wonderful experience. So trust is really important. Loyalty is really important. The things that are really translating with consumers right now are feeling loved and feeling the love on the plate, in the box, in the takeout experience. All of this is really, really, really important. I was talking with a client yesterday, Sam Marvin, who's a wonderful, wonderful chef. He has a restaurant in Las Vegas and he has a restaurant in Sacramento called Echo and Rig. And his restaurant in Las Vegas is doing 90% of the business pre-pandemic. And the reason that's happening is because he had such close community ties in Las Vegas with his customers that they totally trust him and they are flocking back to his restaurant. Not true of any of the restaurants on the Strip, by the way.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the 3 restaurants that have launched in the last few years?
We launched Market Tavern at the original Farmers Market with Chef Brendan Collins and Gary Twin, which is a really elevated sort of British pub with incredible beers. And if you know Brendan, he's a master at things like pies and pâtés and charcuterie. We launched a really lovely cafe in Santa Monica called Uplifter's Kitchen. And the owner is a vegetarian cafe. And she's making really, really beautiful food. People really are responding extremely well to it. And we just opened Forma in the old Chaya space in Venice. Forma is an Italian restaurant, a beautiful focus on pasta. Very successful location in Santa Monica, and they just opened in Venice. And again, I would say these clients are doing really well because they're speaking to what the consumer wants to eat and how they want to experience it right now. I also think that location has a great deal to do with success right now.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you touched on it, but you know, pub food, pasta, pizza, obviously, you know, the most. Valerie, you know, I know some of your recipes are kind of comfort food focused. Can you tell us a little bit about how, you know, if you've changed what you're, you know, putting out recipe-wise, if people start gravitating to certain recipes more than in the past?
Yeah, I mean, my recipes have always been comfort food focused in general. I definitely feel like people are looking for more comfort food over the past few months. It wasn't as easy to go out, obviously in the beginning of the pandemic, people were more, I think people were more interested in creating these like really intricate recipes and cooking and really enjoying the whole experience of cooking. Everyone like tried their hand at sourdough and everything like that. So, in the beginning of the pandemic, I think I noticed more of my intricate recipes being more popular. And I think now people are kind of just get the food a little bit like more like get the food. I want good food, but I want it like on the table in like half an hour, like maximum. So I think people are a little bit burnt out with cooking, which I think is also a good situation for restaurants who are starting to focus on takeout and focus on like these experiences dining in, because people are really needing it right now. They are. I can tell. I mean, I'm actually someone who doesn't eat out that often day to day in my normal pre-pandemic life, and I find myself like wanting to go and eat out or pick up food from someone, and that's something that I just really didn't do that much before the pandemic. Honestly, I'm just like so sick of cooking right now.
I feel that. Marlee, I mean, pizza, a classic comfort food. I mean, was that just fortuitous? Have you adapted the menu at all? Has there been a way you've kind of really played up that?
Yeah, no.
aspect?
Fortunately, we haven't. We've just relied on our classics. I mean, the menu would vary week to week when we were doing pop-ups and events and whatnot. But I think pizza, we've felt very fortunate since the beginning of all of this, and just generally to be in the pizza industry and have found a little bit of success there, just because I think it proved itself in an economic crisis the last time the country went through a recession, and I think pizza was one of the markets that survived, and I think it's doing it again during the pandemic. I think it's comforting, it can fit into any household, it can really feed any age range, right? Children, grandparents. And I think nowadays, I mean, whether you're vegan, whether you're eating gluten-free, there's cauliflower crust alternatives. So it's remaining something that's pretty present in every household in some way. So yeah, it's been, I think, an easy transition for us to work our way into households that we already existed in and new ones, because most American families consume pizza at least once a week. Yeah,
certainly
we do.
Tara, Celene, I mean, your cuisine, it's at least in the U.S. perhaps not comfort food. Maybe in Bali it is. I mean, it's sort of still super filling. But one thing I can certainly say for sure is that it's visually super striking, and not just the cuisine itself, but your packaging. The whole brand you guys have created, it's really evocative. It catches the eye, and I think especially when you're launching a new concept or pivoting, that's important, because you only have one chance to get people to notice you. Tell us a little bit about the thought process that went into how you branded it.
A lot of what we think about and what we eat this food is it's like all about the nostalgia part of it. I mean, we lived in Bali, so making this food is like trying to get back to the island in some way, and so that was the direction we wanted to take. A lot of the colors and playfulness that we realized come from art that has been lying around our house for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I think the message has worked because our guests that have visited Bali mm-hmm. feel like they go back there when they eat the food. Mm-hmm. And I think as we talk about experience and how to give that, like to bring that element to customers, I kind of get to vacation when they eat a Bungkus. Mm-hmm. And so, whether they've been to Bali before or if it's the first time, they go somewhere else when they get to enjoy the meal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to what Jill was saying too about like the food having love in it, I think that's a huge part of why we do what we do and of what we're trying to communicate with our food, because Balinese food, for each pop-up, we have like a 50 to 60 hour week. So, and that's for 250 units. So with that's just the two of us working, but there is a lot that goes into the food, and so far a lot of the feedback from our customers has been that they really feel that, and they feel all of the effort and all of the good intentions that go into it. It's like a very spiritually gratifying process for us, and Bali is a very spiritual place, so I feel like that's a huge part of what we want to communicate. And I hope that like when you get this food, it's a gift, and you get to like unwrap it like a gift, and you get to experience it in that way. So that is definitely like a big part of our why, I guess you would say, is that it's about love and like sharing and community and all of those things that have been hard to come by during the pandemic. So we hope to give a little slice of that through our food.
And I just want to drill down on that a little bit more, just for people that are also thinking about this for their own food. But yeah, like the initial experience you have when you come to pick it up it's just super. It builds an amazing first impression. The pop-up space has incense. You have the kind of art in the background. Your packaging is stamped. I mean, you even you throw in little Southeast Asian candies, right? When you open up the bag, there's sort of all sorts of little goodies that sort of just leave a smile on your face. I mean, is that just like how did you decide like what was going to go in that bag?
Growing up, like Bali is the only Hindu island out of the thousands in Indonesia, and so there's opportunity for ceremony everywhere. Like there's one day a year where you honor like the coconut trees in your house and you skirt on them, light incense. So I guess it might be second nature to us to like want to do that with everything, because there's no reason not to make something beautiful and make it comprehensive if you can. I guess I just forget that that's not how it's done, because that was part of growing up in our childhood. But it is intentional, and you're right that some people walk into our world. Every sense is hit in some way.
It's just, I think, how like who we were raised by and who we grew up around is like everything's beautiful, everything is adorned. It's not minimalist. It's like there's flowers, there's art, there's food everywhere. It's like it's a very abundant visual sort of. There's a lot of like splendor. So we just like lean into that and try to make it like a cozy experience when you walk up, and try to be cozy ourselves, even though we get excited.
Right. Less manic is better.
Yeah.
Well, I very much think that you guys succeed in creating that environment. But Jill, I mean, you and I have talked about this before too, the importance of first impressions. Can you talk a little bit about what your own clients are doing, what you've seen work, what you've seen that hasn't worked, both for people sitting out front of a restaurant and even takeaway.
Of course, I couldn't agree more. The people want to have a real experience right now. So the experiential aspect of food is everything, right? So the things that are really connecting with clients, with customers are things like, for instance, Gracias Madre, who's one of our clients. They do their guacamole and their salsa and their chips and their wonderful, wonderful margaritas, and they put it together, and it's like a party in a box. And it goes home with people, and they can get out of themselves. Everybody needs to get away from themselves a little. We've all been with ourselves for way too long. So we have to figure out a way to create moments and experience. But the best restaurants in the world are the ones where you have a complete 360-degree experience, right? It's not the food alone. It's not the service alone. It's not the bathroom or the flowers. It's the way everything interconnects to give you something that creates a memory. And the memory is what makes you go back to the restaurant. You think, oh my God, I had the greatest 30th birthday. I'm going back on my 31st birthday. And so it's my clients who are thinking that way about creating these moments for their guests that are successful. Mediocrity will not work right now. It's just not going to work. It has to be the best bowl of ramen, the most incredible pizza, the most perfect confiture. It has to be that right now. And so this is what is happening with people. Our client pasta sisters, they're this fantastic Italian family. They love their guests, they love each other, and they just create moments of love over and over again. So you go in, if you want to go home and cook pasta, they give you a beautiful bag with pasta and sauce and fresh cheese and recipes and love, as we're talking about. So those are the kinds of things, again and again, creating those opportunities for people to, if they want to go in the restaurant, great, but if they want to bring it out of the restaurant, it has to speak to them. And, you know, I always say, make your menu smaller but more perfect. And that's what people are doing right now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. But I think we can kind of keep on that, because, you know, make your menu smaller. You know, a lot of restaurants have become, you know, totally, you know, delivering takeout focus, where maybe before they didn't even have that as an option. Oftentimes that requires, you know, retooling 100%. Your menu. Some things travel well, some things don't. Give us your thoughts, you know, A, how do you adapt your cuisine for that? And B, how do you make that experience special? Because if you're not in the restaurant, you can't, you know, see the decor. You're just, you know, getting a handoff from the courier. What does success look like? Well,
success looks like giving reheating instructions, or a little note in a script, or as you were saying, whether it's a small candle or a candy or a flower or something that heightens the mood, or serving suggestions, wine suggestions, beer suggestions. Listen, to-go cocktails are genius. Genius. People who are doing the to-go cocktails, doing great with them. Just great. So it's really, again, it's completing the moment by taking the time to help the consumer really experience who you are, your unique selling proposition at home. It's not just, you know how you all feel when you order something and you get it and you look at it and you think, why did I do this? This is just terrible. And, you know, when you're spending, for instance, $100 on sushi, and it comes home and it looks like, you don't really want to do that again. So it's really the way it's presented. So that's to-go packaging. That's, you know, how you get from one place to another. You know, can you pick it up? Do you have to deal with a delivery service? All of these things are things we talk about in how we transition from the restaurant into the home.
Yeah. And anyone else, yeah, sort of thoughts on this topic, ways to really make your presentation when you pick it up sing?
I mean, I just think even from a, you know, forget the fact that we all are involved in the restaurant on some capacity, speaking on a consumer level, you know, when you receive something right now, everyone, it's not just restaurants that are hurting economically. And I feel that I've seen a lot of restaurants just kind of seem to give up in a way where they're like, you know, we're just hurting so much. We can't have a full team and we can't provide the same way we used to. So here, settle with this. And I think, you know, that mentality is just going to shut establishments down, because on the other side, you have consumers. And I think we can all, you know, anyone that's taken a hit in their business, whether they're in the industry or not, can speak as a consumer that's taken a loss, that every place they choose to dine out, you know, is a vote with their dollar. And I think we're still doing it, expecting an experience. And when on the other side, we feel like it's lackluster and you know, they're not grateful to have our purchase, it just leaves you feeling empty and like, why did I do that, right? Like, why did I buy the $100 sushi? So I experienced recently a company that there was a 10% surcharge that I noticed after the fact for covering their packaging. And, you know, while eating, I was commenting on how great all the packaging was and how well prepared everything was and how it really lent itself to the entire experience. And on the contrary, you know, I dined from a restaurant recently via takeout that added a 10% service wage for their back of house and front of house employees. But the packaging was terrible. So in that instance, you know, you feel like you almost want to call the restaurant and say, you know, and not only was the packaging terrible, but the service wasn't great. So when you look at that picture as a whole, they could have simply, shifted their mentality, charged for the packaging, chosen to use the better packaging, and still impress their consumer, and maybe led them to leave a tip on their own. So I think we can't forget about the fact that we are in the hospitality industry. If we are hurting, so be it. We have to think of a new way to deliver our product the same way we once did, and still create the experience and still complete it top to bottom, whether it's being delivered by someone we've never met or placed in the hand of the consumer. So I just think it's really important, and restaurants on the back end just can't forget the vote of the consumer, and how, at the end of the day, you don't function without their business. So.
Yep. I just want to remind the audience what we'll do, Q&As in the last 10 or 15 minutes or so. So if you want to drop those in the session chat box, we'll be sure to get to them. But beyond takeout, obviously the other format that most restaurants in the country are doing right now is, this sort of, limited outdoor dining, whether it's in a parking lot or, taking over street space, former parking spot, sidewalk, whatever works. Valerie, you're the only one of us that's in a cold weather city, and you also sort of, I think, have your eyes on the sort of general, larger vegan restaurant community. Have you seen examples that work, examples that don't work? How are people adapting to the outdoors?
It has not gotten really cold here yet. I think dinner time is going to start becoming an issue. I'm in Denver. Did you say that? Sorry. I'm in Denver, Colorado. So, it has not gotten really cold yet. You can definitely still enjoy lunch outside. Dinner, when the sun goes down, I think is going to start becoming a real problem soon. I'm kind of watching what everyone's talking about in the news, and what the plan is for, hopefully helping restaurants get through this time, because over, throughout the summer and, most of fall, it's, you can eat outside perfectly comfortably, and they've obviously expanded all their spaces, and like you said, former parking spaces, and full on like huge tents and parking lots I've seen. So yeah, I mean, I'm not super involved obviously in the restaurant industry, so I don't know what everyone's plan is. But I'm interested to see, because when it starts to get too cold to be enjoying meals outside, it's like I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
We better work on our takeout plans now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like some companies, real quick. I know some restaurants are doing like Jill had mentioned, these kind of like to-go packages, almost like a Blue Apron type thing, where they put all their ingredients in a package. You can go pick up curbside and cook it at home. So that would, I guess, be like a really good option for the future for winter.
Jill, what from your own lens, what have you seen work for outdoor, and maybe what doesn't work? We've all had our bad, dining on the side of the highway.
Well, I think the patios that are really tricked out are the ones that are working. The patios that have that feeling that they're their own private, separate Wonderland space. So those patios are doing great. They have heaters, they have they have all the accoutrements to make the customer feel very, very, very comfortable. I think some of these makeshift on the sidewalk patios, not so great. I think it's very difficult sometimes to really enjoy a meal when you're on a very busy thoroughfare, like right on Ventura Boulevard or right on Main Street, and there are no heaters, and there's nothing between you and the street. So I would say that the people that have really taken the time to convert their patios into something special and lovely are what at Marino Restaurant, an old school Italian, wonderful restaurant with Sal Marino in the kitchen on Melrose. They took an outside space, which is a parking space, and turned it into like a beautiful alfresco Italian patio. And dining there is magical. It's lovely and it's comfortable. But with the colder months coming up, even here in Los Angeles, it gets a little chilly at night. I would say that for outdoor dining, people are going to have to think about things like blankets for their customers. They're going to have to think about really making sure that there are enough heaters so people are comfortable. You know, we're asking a lot from the consumer right now. And
would you say, Jill, that your clients that have invested heavily into the outdoor dining experience are seeing a great return on their investment in doing so by buying the heaters, buying the AstroTurf, going the extra mile?
yes, I would. I would absolutely say that. I think it's an investment that is so well worth it. Absolutely.
I would agree.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, to your point, you know, blankets, it doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of outlay, just, you know, little things that make people feel less exposed. It's probably already too late to go out and get a heater if you haven't done so for the winter, but the world has plenty of blankets.
You know, it's even something as simple as candlelight. Oftentimes when we sit outside, there's just not enough light. And for those of us that are, you know, ancient, we can't see anything. So, you know, let's have a little light. Let's bring a little light to the situation so people can see each other. So that our, you know, lighting is everything, to be honest with you. So it's thinking about those things that you would think about in the internal dining room, but for outdoors and making it work. You know, the people that have the gorgeous private patios, like Forma, like Bakery, you know, they're like Fia. All of these restaurants, they have these found beautiful spaces that were already super successful prior to the pandemic. And of course, they're doing really well because it feels like you're dining in an oasis away from everything. And so thinking of that, keeping that in mind, creating that sense of space, I think is super important.
Yeah. The last thing I want to touch on before, you know, maybe open it up to audience questions is, you know, the sense of community, and I mean that in the big picture sense, whether that's, you know, really connecting with your own, you know, audience or giving back to the community at large, or just, you know, figuring ways to kind of deepen your connections. And ideally, it's both altruistic, but also, you know, serves you own well. Tara, Celene, you know, has basically, you know, you've started this new concept from scratch, but you've, you know, immediately gotten all these fans. Is there a way you've kind of tapped into that community to build loyalty?
Well, one of the things that I feel like we've made a priority is actually get our customers. So because I obsessively go through all of the order tickets anyway to make sure that all of our are right, I start to know people's names and I start to know what they order, and like I know that this person always gets vegetarian. And so when people come in, I, even wearing the mask, I know their eyes and I know their name. And it's like, I feel like we're slowly starting to build this little like community of like the Bungkus lovers, which is really cool. And I didn't expect. And so I think us putting some effort beforehand and like on the back end to make it feel like we answer emails and DMs right away if we can. We're very friendly. Like we're not super formal or, you know, too like professional about. We really want our customers to feel like our friends and like part of our family. So part of our like brand, I guess, is that we aren't super business-like all the time. And that I think is something that people like. They feel like, you know, they're getting to like hang with some friends, and it's like a community experience for them.
And we also, the last two podcasts we did, we've worked out our prep day so that all orders are ready and complete by the time pickup window begins. And that ended up being a really important modification because previous to that, I was wrapping Bungkus and not getting any FaceTime with customers. And it was, you know, for me, it's really rewarding to hand the Bungkus off and to meet the person who's about to eat the food. So I'm really happy we've managed to work our day out so that we actually speak to everyone. I get some questions about how out about us, if they've been to Bali before. So it just helps to let down that relationship. And then we get a lot of really great information that we can use for the next one too.
Yeah.
Marlee, what is your own, you know, when someone comes to pick up the latest pizza drop, what is that relationship like? I think you're on mute or
Sorry about that. I think that because our business was, the foundation was doing the pop-ups and working really intimately with our customers, on an event or having them consistently come visit us at the same wine bar, we share a similar experience from a pop-up standpoint where we have relationships with many of our customers. We're available via text. We're, comforting someone that's lost their dog. So we have a great relationship with many of our customers. Our pickup experience is quite easy. The customer comes up and asks for their pizza, and we have a list, and we have a gal that's worked with us for several years and knows lots of our customers by name as well that runs that. Delivery, we were able to find the world's most incredible delivery driver, which I literally had someone call yesterday in Topanga that wanted to leave him a tip hours later that had forgot to do so, like demanding I send him a charge so he can leave a tip because he loved the driver so much. So I think with expanding as well, and I think Zach and I, my partner in the operation, we had so much FaceTime with customers through the first year. And I think now as we're shifting into this digital era and finding a different way to deliver our product, it requires more of us on the back end. So it's really just about finding people to work with you that, have those same values and that same appreciation for customer base, and also that they know your expectation. And I think they've seen us do it, and they know the way we communicate with our customers and what we expect and how personal we get. And fortunately, they've been able to carry that on as we would. And then on a broader level, we have since early June, I think we made this commitment in April or May, we decided that if we were going to continue selling food through this time, we were going to also make sure we were getting food to people that couldn't just afford it as much as we appreciate all of them, but also that needed it. So we've been working with a local community organization in Nickerson Gardens in Watts in South Central LA. So we've shared almost 3,000 pizzas with them at this point, frozens, the same quality we would sell to our consumers. So it would be very easy for us to go to Costco or get a donation from DiGiorno or some organization or company that sells very low quality frozen pizza. But it was very important to us that we weren't only sharing our product, but sharing something we would share with our customers of quality, because we all know nourishment is also very important in the time of a pandemic. So that's been nice for us as well. And I think our customers have really enjoyed seeing that from us and have commented on it along the way. So that's been nice as well.
That's great. And yeah, thank you for giving back like that. Valerie, your own community is, tens, hundreds of thousands strong. Has the way that you've, interacted with them throughout this pandemic changed? Has people's needs? Obviously, everyone's struggling in their own ways. Have you managed to, make something even more out of your community?
Yeah, I think so. Initially in the beginning, like I mentioned about when it was hard to find ingredients, I completely opened myself up. Not that I'm not normally, but just tried to be a lot more available to help people substitute some of my recipes, and just, if they couldn't find a certain ingredient, just try to work with them to help them find something that might work. And then just since then, I'm really grateful to live in a place like Denver where I can go on hikes and get outdoors, and not everyone has access to that kind of outdoors. So just sharing, stories and on Instagram of my hikes and of the outdoors, and I get so many DMs just saying like, just watching your stories today felt like I took like a deep breath outside somewhere where I can't access right now. So that, that for me. And then I have a corgi, so I like post like silly videos of him in my stories, which is always like funny to watch. And I get a lot of DMs about that too. So, outside of food, just trying to be some sort of escape from our daily lives these days. So, yeah.
Everyone needs an escape. Let's do a few minutes of questions then. Starting with Gerald's. Says it seems like a lot of the marketing people are doing is on social media, but he doesn't use Facebook or Instagram. What are your thoughts on reaching customers like him? Jill, how can you kind of reach beyond the phone?
Well, you know, traditional PR works out pretty well there. You know, if we're able to get, excuse me, in print, online broadcast stories, which we are doing a lot of, that is the way we get out into the public. A perfectly balanced PR campaign is one that really encompasses all of the traditional PR strategies with the newer, you know, digital and, you know, social media strategies. So hopefully anybody who's doing marketing for any restaurant at all will be trying to reach out in every possible way. You know, community engagement is so important right now too. I think that giving back is part of doing business right now. So hopefully, you know, all people that are doing business are thinking of people that are less fortunate and getting out in that way too. So sometimes people that are really engaged in the community can become aware of a brand through community outreach as well. And
Tara, Celene, I know you two, obviously you have a fantastic social media presence, but you also, you know, when there's a drop coming up, there's, you know, you send out the emails, you know, what's a full strategy look like?
Well, before the pop-up, like if the pop-up's an upcoming weekend, we have our mailing list, email out first. So, you know, guests that are already in our community and on the list know about the day first, you can plug it in. And then we'll post social media the next day. So I actually really like having correspondence via email because we have a lot of customers that aren't our age, that, you know, aren't necessarily even American or Angelinos, right? So email's more comfortable for them and makes more sense.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of customers who maybe like, you know, English second language, or who are an older demographic, who might be from Indonesia. So we just make ourselves really available by email. So if they did hear about us or read about us in an article in a more traditional sense, like Jill was saying, and they reach out to us, you know, they don't need to follow us on Instagram. As long as they have email or we can work something out, we will keep in touch with them and make sure that they're, you know, abreast of like the next drop or whatever. Yeah.
Next question, asking, what are your strategies for balancing presentation and packaging with sustainability? Is that something you're factoring in your decisions? Marlee, what is the Morra, you know, packaging like? How do you weigh presentation?
I think that you know, sadly, I think sustainability for restaurants was kind of, through March and April at least, thrown out the window, at least momentarily. There were so many issues, and we unfortunately haven't had to, you know, shift. Our packaging is quite simple, but at least, you know, in seeing things I've received from other takeout establishments and whatnot, I think restaurants were so focused on how we get our food out. I think supply chains were so disrupted on a packaging level. We were seeing, you know, back orders on things for months at a time. So I think now, you know, my hope and the way we're pursuing it is that people that are continuing to package their goods that once were not packaged are able to kind of realign with what their values are on sustainability. I don't really think there's a strategy necessarily. I think it's a commitment as a business. If that's going to be a priority for you, regardless of cost, you know, you look into it and you see what you can do and you explore all of your options. For us, it's something we're considering. And actually the reason we haven't began shipping yet, though we've had lots of demand for it, is because we don't want to use styrofoam packaging. And so that's something you see often with ice cream and other frozen pizzas we've received, but that's just something we want to steer clear of. And there are alternatives, but like I said, there are shifts in the supply chain and issues with distribution. So I think from a business owner perspective and a company perspective, it's just kind of what your, you know, what your standard is for what product you want to use, and whether you have a commitment to sourcing that. But I do think, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of people have to make decisions based on getting the cheapest item available to them that still looks nice. And I hope that shifts, you know, towards the end of the year and once things begin to even out more. But, you know, I don't know if everyone else would agree, but I think just initially it was quite hard for everyone to think about. It's when you're in disaster, like panic mode, you're like, grab whatever is near, you know, it's not always going to be the best option.
Sure. Celene, your own packaging is, very sustainable, biodegradable, recyclable. Was that a conscious decision, or it just sort of happened by happy circumstances?
No, that was intentional. I mean, we compost at home, and so if the dream was to be able to compost all of our packaging at home, so it was tricky, and like Marlee mentioned, because supply chains got disrupted, it was hard to find eco-friendly options. So we were kind of buying from random and faraway places. But now that we've been in it for a while, I think that we've landed on some really great, like a couple great boxes, and then we're just sticking with that. And then when we can incorporate banana leaves, we try to do that because they more than just whole Bungkus. So
very versatile tool.
They're a very versatile tool. So we just get better at like I have to learn how to make baskets out of them, basically.
Yeah, someday.
That's not impossible. I just have it's just a matter of learning it, and then I think because we are a 2-person at the moment, we have set quantities and we have a certain volume that we're able to do, but I think that's actually been helpful because it controls for how much waste we're putting out into the world every 2 weeks that we do a pop-up anyways. So that it feels good to not be contributing to the trash situation.
Yeah, as much as possible.
Yeah, I personally speaking, I certainly appreciate that, and I'm trying to use my banana leaf as a bandana, but I've not succeeded. Okay, I think. So there's a question here that I think we can kind of use as a final thought for everyone. Shannon's asking, what are your hopes for the future of the hospitality industry? Do you foresee people coming out stronger? So I think I'd love, A, everyone's thoughts on this. B, just kind of use this for 1 minute, your final kind of takeaway, what you're optimistic about. And then everyone also, if you want to plug your own social media handle or website. So let's just kind of top to bottom, start with Valerie.
So as far as like my industry, again, like I think it's evolved so much over the last few months, and we're kind of back to where we were, I think, and just like trying to create accessible recipes that are delicious, and comfort food, obviously always a focus. Who knows what's going to happen over the next few months? Again, I think people are starting to get a little tired of cooking, so I've definitely noticed a decrease in traffic and engagement and all that kind of stuff. But again, as I talked about before, just kind of becoming more of a full presence and not just food. In my industry, just kind of becoming more of like a friend, a confidant, someone that you can talk to. And as far as restaurants go, I think that I've definitely noticed a certain a business plan that I can see reflected in different restaurants that I see are being really successful. A new pop-up came about during the pandemic, similar experience, I guess, to Bungkus. Okay. And they decided to leave their jobs before when the pandemic hit, and opened this incredibly successful pop-up here. And it just takes a little bit of trial and error, and they are to be focused on this whole takeout thing and have really good food. The transition from the restaurant and then that 15-20 minute drive home, and still have it taste really delicious, and they're doing great. So I definitely think that it really just I wish I knew, but yeah, it's pretty yeah. And VeganTravelEats.com, and on everyone's favorite different social media apps. Marlee, final thoughts, 60 seconds, and where can people find you?
Okay, hopes for the future of the hospitality industry. I think that we're just going to see shifts, right? I think people are going to adapt and get used to these new ways of getting a product delivered to them. I think things will go back to normal in some capacities, but I think these avenues of receiving your groceries or receiving really wonderful frozen pizza. I think those things are going to stick around. The cocktails, the bottled cocktail situation. I think there's a lot of things that are going to come out of this, and access to the consumer and ease to the consumer that they're not going to let go of. But all this is, I think, is just pushing along a trend that we were seeing come to fruition one way or another, right? Through digital technology and apps and the internet and social media. So, you know, I hope that with that said, it doesn't push out the mom and pops and the old school New York establishments and hole in the walls that we love so much. I would hate to see that. And we're also a small business, but I do think it'll change things. But I think it'll resume in lots of ways. The hospitality industry will never die. People always need to eat. I think it's just going to be about how we deliver, essentially. So, and then beyond that, if you want to try our pizza, if you're in LA or not, you should go to our website. I'll link it, www.lamorrapizzeria.com, and sign up for our emails so we can let you know when we start shipping nationwide. In the meantime, we deliver all over Los Angeles and Orange counties like 3 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week. So.
And I personally can't wait to try it.
Tried it yet? We'll have to send you some.
Looking forward to it. Jill, js2pr.com. Final thoughts.
Oh man, I have nothing but hope for the future of the hospitality industry. I believe in it 100% with all my heart and soul. I feel like restaurant experiences are some of the most important of our lives. They determine who we are in some ways. They celebrate the moments, and they will continue to celebrate the moments. I feel like we will all have been changed, and in some ways for the better, 100%. People in the hospitality business are the hardest working, best people in the world. There's nobody better. These people are salt of the earth people. They would give you the shirt off their back, and they work harder than anybody. And they will continue to do that, and they will be successful, 1,000%. At JS2PR is our handle. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara, Celene, final thoughts, and remind the audience how to pronounce.
Yes. So it's Bungkus, Bagus, which means good package. We'll put it in the chat there.
If we all don't know how to say that by the end of this, we haven't done our job. So that's my takeaway.
It's a hard one to remember. Bungkus, Bagus. Yeah.
Like a goose.
Yeah, like a goose.
And we started following you, so I hope everyone else does too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a big thing for us is just sort of lifting the veil between the customer and the restaurant, and kind of like breaking down a lot of those walls in the like food trucks have been doing, and like taco trucks and street stands have been doing for, and night markets. It's just getting that personal connection and having like a casual experience that is also very sophisticated in actually eating, and kind of marrying those two things is what I hope for, because I think that other than like the great fine dining experiences, that's what I look for, personal connection with a restaurant. So that's kind of my hope, and I think that's the direction we're headed in. Everybody's just a lot more intimate now, and it's like the jig. We can stop pretending we're all human and kind of things. So
I agree. My thought was human to human connection. Pretty much, that's what I've craved in all this isolation, and so that's my hope.
Yeah, definitely. And we're doing a Halloween pop-up with some new items, with some really special stuff. So I'm going to leave our website in the chat, and then if you want to get on our mailing list, it's on our website, or follow us on Instagram too, if you have that. Here we are.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm sorry for the questions we didn't get to. Vic wants some LA food on the East Coast. We'll mail you some spaghetti in an envelope. Thank you, everyone, so much. Tara, Celene, Jill, Marlee, Valerie, really appreciate your time and your insights. To our audience, thank you for joining us. We're just, the next session is just about kickoff, Vroom Boom, rethinking drive-throughs, drive-ins, parking, and car-based businesses for the coronavirus era. Obviously, still very topical for so many other restaurants and restaurateurs. So the day's fun continues. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys.